Okay, we are at a different park today. Jordan Creek Park. I think we've been here at least one time before, but not that often. After the long walk we had yesterday at Holden, I thought maybe today we would go somewhere different, maybe to several places. This is Sunday at maybe 1 p.m. Oh, 12:35 p.m. Just got some time. I was sitting outside on the patio of the Chardon Buckeye Chocolate Cafe a little earlier, having a coffee and deciding what to do today. And this choice popped into my head, and so I decided to come here. I like to mix it up. It's earlier Sunday. I mean, I guess we have, what, 7 hours of very good daylight ahead of us, maybe 8, and I have no particular plans other than to be out enjoying nature today and possibly recording some of these walks, and then some I won't. I had a lot of difficulty converting the video from yesterday, which was the longest video I've ever done, 1 hour and 51 minutes, and I didn't even get the full walk because the battery died on my way back, and it also started to storm, to thunderstorm after that, so you missed that video does not capture the best part, which is me getting drenched in the rain on my way back to the car, which was made more complicated by the fact that the trail was closed. The one that I anticipated that would bring me the quickest to the parking lot was closed, and I forgot about it, even though I knew that, but I forgot. So I had to loop around this pond, all while the rain is pouring down on me, and made it to the parking lot. It was absolutely drenched. At least I had my hat on, which kept my head relatively dry. All in all, it was actually kind of fun. I mean, how many times do you get caught outside in a thunderstorm? So I don't know, it was kind of fun. I made it home alive and lived another day, and here we are, and it's next day. And I lathered myself up with bug lotion, so I'm prepared for deep woods hiking, and we'll see where we go. All right. Hi. Okay, so we're gonna descend these stairs and get to the trails that go a little deeper here, the less populated areas as well, which are conducive for introspective discourse. But yeah, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit here because my other video isn't even up on YouTube yet, and the reception here is terrible, so the technology is giving me all sorts of problems today. But I didn't decide, you know, I fought with this enough this morning. I had problems with running out of space on my phone, and then, I don't know, there were all sorts of technology problems, which is because the video was much longer, almost twice as long as normal, and I have to keep that in mind. My technological limitations here, which I don't normally concern myself with that much, but when I am trying to put these videos on YouTube, it can be challenging. But I don't want to spend my time, you know, it depresses me when I find myself spending too much time fighting with something like that and not enough time being outside doing this, which is what I really love. I just like to capture some of it and share it for whoever might be interested. But getting out here and doing this is the most important thing. I don't care. I mean, I'm not aiming to be any sort of YouTube influencer. I hate to use the phrase with all this. I have 27 subscribers right now after however many months of doing this, and most of my videos get a few views. I mean, 1 to 4, maybe some get 30, you know, and I am not inclined to change anything to try to increase that because I don't care. I mean, What I do care about is that anybody that does care or could benefit from this finds these videos one day. But if that's 10 people out there, or one person, even one person that derives any sort of benefit from this, then I'm happy. You know, this isn't a popularity contest. I don't even have the skill to do that. I'm not an entertaining person, and this is not entertainment. This is serious. You know, these dialogues we're having are serious discussions about very important things. I'm not trying to get ratings or views. I'm trying to go through this in my own mind and see if we come up with anything, and then record that process along the way. Whatever this process is, I don't know. The value, I don't know, but it just feels like it's worth recording and finding out. And if it means nothing, that's great. If it means everything, that's great. It's just something I'm doing. Cute little waterfall over there. Hi. So yeah, perfect day for this sort of thing. Perfect park. There are a lot of parks to choose from around here, and I don't go out enough and explore the variety. Sometimes I'm fine, you know, once I find something that works, I stick with it. I mean, I think that's true in my life in general, as well as these videos. I do like to have whatever variety I can, but you know, I'm not spending a lot of time going outside my local area, you know, just doing what I can do around home, and you know, going from there. Hi. Trail might be a little more occupied than I had hoped. It's a great day though, so I'm glad everyone's out. That's the most important thing, really. But I think this is another reason why I sort of stick to the parks that work for this sort of thing anyways, when I'm recording. This is a great place to come, and maybe it's not the best for recording because, you know, I sort of need a little aloneness, a little solitude to kind of get into the groove, I guess, of what we're doing here, what we've been doing through these discourses. And you know, it gets broken up a bit when people walk by, because I feel a little self-conscious about the recording. I don't want anyone to get upset because they're being recorded. And obviously these are just incidental encounters, which are, I think most people don't have any problem with. But you know, some people might, and you know, I'm hoping to get into things, you know, deeply and have some discussion. And I'm probably going to record more than one trip today, but given all my limitations on uploading and exporting and all this sort of stuff that I mentioned earlier, it might take me a while to get all these videos up on YouTube, so they might not all appear on the day that I record them. And that's that. There is something interesting. I was watching a video. I didn't know whether I was going to bring this up or not, but I guess I'll just mention it briefly. There's a person on YouTube who I just happened to see her video today, who is like a, I don't know, you might say organic farmer, gardener. She has food in her, you know, that she's sort of into sustainable living, and has like a garden and livestock, you know, not livestock, I mean small animals and things that she grows, and she has a YouTube channel. And she was discussing this morning how she shifted towards political posts in 2025, last year, when she really felt that things were not heading in the right direction. And the viewership of her channel shot up tremendously, and she started making a lot of money through her videos because they became so politically active, right? And she then went on to say it was becoming way too much for her. She loved the income because she said her family was, like, for the first time in her life, financially secure, and she was making an income from this. And she was able to buy equipment for a new studio and you know, other things. And so it became very attractive to her to keep this up because of the money. But what she talked about is how exhausting it became, because she was making like up to 8 videos a day. She was doing nothing but reading politically divisive posts and dissecting everything that the current president was saying, and it just became, and she said it was just wearing her down, both emotionally, just energy. She was working 80 hours a week to try to keep up with this, and she's like, it was not sustainable. And she recognized that at some point, and one day posted a video where she just said, I can't keep this up anymore. And then all her viewership precipitously dropped after that. She formed another channel that was more politically oriented to keep her original channel. I think it was permaculture that she was working on, and she said it just didn't work. Like, the YouTube algorithm didn't know what to do with her posts, didn't know who was interested, and her revenue from these posts dropped by 80%. And basically she lost all the gains that she had made, and then some, probably, from, you know, like from what happened, right? She turned from a sort of a gardening naturalist type channel to a politically active divisive channel. And it's interesting because there's a reward for that. You know, it's like the current environment, the current algorithms, right, of YouTube reward you for being politically divisive, for being controversial, for stirring up the energy, which increases viewership, at the expense, though, right, of promoting good things. And she even said she got tired of it. She wasn't promoting, like, what she started with was like a good thing that she was trying to promote, and then she realized she was just in this reactive state that was no good for her. And it's like people weren't so much interested in what she was doing before she became politically divisive. And it's just strange how this works now, right? The algorithm, we can put that in quotes because a lot of people like to refer to this as the algorithm of social media, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, whatever, rewards divisive posts, rewards those posts that keep people's negative energy up, right? And when you think about that for a minute, it's like not what we want, right? Do we want to encourage divisiveness in this country, in this world, or do we want to encourage togetherness? And it struck me, right, that the way in which all this is unfolding, all the technology, is to encourage divisiveness, to encourage hate, to encourage people to just enter into this endless political or other debate, whatever debate it is, right? The things that agitate people, and then to financially reward that, right? And not to financially reward people who are posting things about organic and sustainable living and, you know, what would be very useful for us to learn from as a society. So it just reminded me of the downward spiral that we're on right now, where negativity is reinforced and positivity is suppressed. that there's this tendency towards this feedback loop, you could call it, that leads to divisiveness and hate. And it's like, no wonder that we are in a society where there's more divisiveness than ever. And these algorithms on both sides, right? I don't think it matters what side you're on, reinforce your biases. And people want that, right? They want content that just continues to reinforce what they already believe, so that it just exacerbates the problem. And I mean, we've talked about this endlessly, that the solution is not to, that's not the solution, right? That's contributing to the problem. So this made me think a lot about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and how I have no desire to feed the beast, the social media algorithms, to gain popularity or viewership or whatever. I'm putting this out there recognizing that I'm not gaming the system. I'm not trying to get people to view my videos. Very few people are viewing my videos at the present moment. I do have a few people who have told me that they like what I do, like a handful, right? And I just care about that handful. Like, to me, this is about helping or encouraging people to find truth on their own in order to lead to a better human society. That's really what this is about. This is not about any benefit to me or anything. And it's I guess a little discouraging, because when you think about the situation we're in and how much help we need, and the downward spiral that I just talked about, it's like, what's going to bring us out of that spiral? And I know it's not going to be reacting to that spiral in any particular way. It's only going to be through a transformation of human consciousness, which leads to that negativity, leads to that divisiveness. Until that truth is seen directly, it's not going to end. It's just going to continue. And that requires a shift, not a glossing over of the superficial qualities, or for me to just say we need to have less divisiveness in the world, right? Because everyone, you could say that, and what does that mean? It doesn't mean a whole lot of anything. The truth is, there is divisiveness in the world, and it is being exacerbated by technology and social media, which is a result of our human ideas, right? This technology that some people find so amazing, right? Science and technology, and some people are just still, like we talked about, this avarice of knowledge, that you just want more and more and more. Let's just increase our technology because that's a good thing, and the more we know about the world, the better it will be. And it's like, I think we're finding out that is not true. The evidence itself would indicate we're a very advanced technological society, and yet we're at our worst point probably in our societal evolution, right? The fact that we have just such discord and chaos across the world, right? Not in just one culture, in all cultures. Like it's a state of degradation, a state of decay, death, you could say, right? This could be the death of humanity that we're witnessing the early stages of, that will only get worse. And there's a measles outbreak right now in the United States that was never there before, not to this extent. And people are getting sick. In just the area that I live in, 11 people in northeastern Ohio have contracted the measles. I just saw an article yesterday that people at the university, someone that was infected with measles was at the university hospital system in Cleveland, one of the major hospital systems that we go to. And they were like, anyone that was there at that particular time was exposed to measles, highly contagious, right? And a problem that measles are spreading because people are so terribly afraid of the vaccine, and not really for fact-based reasons, right? And so the little science and technology that we do have is being eroded. People don't have confidence anymore in all of this, and in some ways, it's good to be critical. We talked about this. It's good to be cynical, but it's also not But when you ignore facts, ignore evidence, right, that becomes a problem, because now you're simply creating your own authority, and it's not fact-based. It's just based on your opinion, your beliefs, right? So we have to talk about, you have to be so careful of that, right? Careful that you don't reject one authority and then just create your own authority, which I think is what happens to a lot of people. You know, they don't trust authority, whatever it is, political, scientific, educational, but then they think the solution is just to reinvent their own authority that isn't really based on fact, but just their opinions and beliefs. Well, that is worse, because it's necessary to stay as close to the facts as possible. We talk all the time about seeing the facts and understanding how to see truth in the facts is the most important thing. And we're straying away from that, right? To where just whatever anyone thinks becomes their own facts, and it's not true. People don't know how to distinguish between opinion and fact. They don't understand the difference, and that very basic misunderstanding of truth is what's leading to the decay of our society, the decay of our species, possibly to the destruction of this whole planet. Sorry to seem a little doomsday, but it is very clear to me what's happening and why it's happening. And I want other people to see it, right? This is why I talk so much on these channels, and why I get into the deeper issues, because I'm not interested in any one particular issue, because that's not getting to the root of all issues. All the problems that we are suffering in society now have a common root, common cause, and it is the human mind. So without understanding the human mind, you can't solve any of these particular problems in any lasting way. And even if you solve one, you're not solving them all, and it's meaningless to solve one when there's a multitude of other problems right there that need solved. If we don't get to the root of all this, which is the only way to solve all these problems, right? To solve them all at once, the holistic way, the holistic solution, right? Not the focus on one problem and I take that problem as my cause and I feel like I'm doing something, like say data centers at the moment. You know, there's a lot of people that are riled up about AI data centers, and it's become their mission. It's their focus at this moment, which didn't even exist, you know, a year or so ago, and all of a sudden it's the hot ticket, you know, item for protesting. And the problem with this is, whether it's, you know, good, bad, or whatever, it's not even the point. It's that when one becomes so focused on one particular issue like that, then everything else falls to the wayside, because you can't possibly focus on every issue with that type of intensity. But the problem is, there's a lot of problems in this world that all need solving, or it doesn't make any sense to solve just one. How is that solving that one? Even if you solve the data center problem, we're right back to the problems we had before that, which were plentiful. So, but it gives people a false sense of confidence. I'm doing something good because I have a good cause, and I found the purpose of my life, right? It's to eliminate data centers, and it just becomes so narrow-minded, right? And in the process, not seeing the full situation that we're in, not understanding that unless we solve all these problems, not just one, not just the one you gravitate towards, we are in serious trouble, right? And so you have to get to the root of it. How do you get to the root of it? By exploring the mind, by exploring our own mind that is behind all of this, right? That there is a common cause. I mean, I hear some people say it's never been like this before. It's never been as bad as it is now. And I'm telling you, it's whether it's politics or whatever. And it's like, of course it has. Like, this is not the first time in history we've had problems. The scale may be grander. The consequences may be more severe. But the cause is the same. We haven't gotten to the cause of the human mind. Understanding that and recognizing that unless there's a shift in consciousness, and that may sound grandiose, but unless there's a shift in consciousness, none of these problems will be solved in any meaningful way. And that has to be seen. That has to be recognized. Because until we recognize that, we will continue to solve or think we're solving one or two problems while society continues to collapse. I mean, think of the degradation. I've seen in my own lifetime how things have declined and decayed even more than when I was a child. And I remember when I was young, people thought we were on the verge of collapse of our society. And honestly, we weren't even close to where we are now. Now it's much worse. So what happens is, what good has any of that done? What good have all the protests done? What good has all the violence done on both sides? The hate of each other? It hasn't led to any meaningful solution to all these problems. It's only made them worse. And this is a truth that needs to be seen. And I don't think a lot of people see it, because whenever I talk to anybody, they just don't want to see that or accept that the current path we're on, things are getting worse. And what they want to do is they want to just, become, say, overly, whatever it is, overly religious, whatever, overly political thinking. Just continue down if I become a devout Catholic and practice that the world will become a better place. It's not, right? It's not, and it hasn't, and we've had thousands of years of even Catholicism, and I would say some of the greatest travesties in our human history are a result of that. Not made better, but made worse. That's the truth of it, and one doesn't want to accept that, because it sounds so great to say, my belief system is going to make this world a better place. I just need to be devout. I just need to be, so devout to my, God, or whichever image of God you have, and to just say, no, I just need to pray more, right? I just need to pray more, and if we all pray more, this world will somehow just reshape itself. It's not going to happen that way. It hasn't happened that way. Over thousands of years, tens of thousands probably, of people praying has not made this world a substantially better place. It has brought us to the precipice of destruction. Do we see that? Do you see that? Not we. Do you see that? Because if you don't see that, you will continue in your old ways. You will continue believing in whatever belief system you have that makes you feel better about yourself. And that somehow you have hope. Hope is such a destructive thing, actually. Hope is a terrible thing. Because hope is about the future, not the present. A future that never comes. I hope the world gets better. I hope one day there's an end to violence. I hope the next political leader will solve all our problems. I mean, take your pick. Hope is just such a dangerous thing, because it also means I don't have to worry about it now. I can wait for the future to come when things are better. I hope one day things will be better, instead of saying, what do I do now? Like, what is the problem now that needs solved? Not the future problem, or someone else will figure it out, but what can I do? Not I again, right? But what can be done to rectify all this, right? And the truth is, if we get to the root of it, right? And people have seen for thousands of years that the problem is the human mind. I mean, Buddhists and Hindu and other religions have seen the problems in some way, right? But because these things became ritualistic, institutionalized, traditional, sort of lost the essence of it. The whatever was there before isn't there now. Whatever truth there was is not present now. All right, sorry for that little interruption. I paused it. We had a confluence of walkers here, and so yeah, I mean, I guess, it's just to return to this topic of it's so important that we see what's really going on, or we'll never solve these problems. And I guess this is why I come out and do this. And I suppose you could say there's a little bit of hope, right? And I just got done saying hope can be a treacherous thing. But, the way I look at it, it doesn't matter what the result of something is, right? You do the right thing or what you think is right, regardless of the outcome. Not only if you think, you have some projection of the future and you imagine, well, how can possibly one person doing or saying anything make any significant change? Is thought trying to stop you from doing the right thing by saying it's not efficient, it's not reliable, it's not going to lead to change, or whatever? And I'm not worried about that, right? Because I can't even imagine what this may lead to or this may not lead to. But I feel like there needs to be a discussion, right? We need to have a dialogue about truth, right? And I know I'm not having a dialogue yet with anybody, and I'm not interested in, this isn't about one person being right and one person being wrong. It's just that we need to go into what's really happening right now. Do we see the problem? Right? That's all I'm trying to maybe do, is see the problem clearly myself, right? And then in that process, maybe help others to see the problem, what's actually happening, to see their beliefs, to see thought and thinking, because we have moved away from any sort of interest in, let's say, the inner world. I guess we have become, at least, and I can only speak for the society and culture that I grew up in here, the American culture, but so focused on knowledge that we have lost touch with any sense of the religious mind, right? And I don't, when I say that, I need to put religious in quotes, because I'm not talking about traditional religion, because we've gone into that. And that has had its shot, right? If you want to say that, these belief systems, religion based on belief, and I will put them all into the same category, as opposed to religion based on fact, religion based on what is true, not what is believed. That is 180 degrees different than what we're doing now. And I think we become so used to accepting that belief is integrally intertwined with religion that we think it's one and the same, right? We talk about faiths. We talk about religions as faiths. We use that word faith as like a noun, as a category, and we lump, what religious faith are you? When, this is the problem, right? All religions based on faith or belief is what we're talking about. It's not based in fact and truth. And that may be a hard pill to swallow, but the truly religious mind is the mind that sees fact, sees what is, does not disguise it, does not run away with ideas about reality that are just constructed. And it doesn't matter whether they're true or not, because it's, again, a belief is something that can be true, can be false. It really, what does it even mean for a belief to be true? It doesn't mean anything, because a belief can never be true, right? Never. All that's true is what is happening, not belief. Belief has no place where truth is concerned. It just doesn't. And until we see that, and that the religious mind, the truly religious mind, there needs to be religion. There needs to be a truly religious mind, but it is not of the nature of all these religions that we have now. This is a big change. This is a big statement, right? To say all religions are wrong. Who am I to say all religions are wrong? How dare I? Right? And to confuse that also, though, with atheism, because to say all religions are wrong is not to reject what is actually truly sacred. It's saying we have migrated and drifted so far away from the truth that we mistake now belief with truth. And we are happy with the world of ideas that we have constructed. And we've forgotten about truth itself. Real truth. What really is. Right? We've forgotten. And we've strayed so far from that, right? We're not interested in finding the truth for ourselves. We believe we have enough people to tell us what the truth is. There's so many authority figures now, very confident authority figures. Take your pick. Each religion is so confident about its truth, even though each religion opposes each other. Which should be a real good indication, right there, that it's none of these are truth, because they're all super confident that they're right, and they all are super confident that everyone else is wrong. And that creates division right there. Right there, in that I believe something that I think is true, and I think everyone else doesn't know what they're talking about. That is almost the universal feeling that traditionally religious people have. That is not the truly religious mind. We don't even know what that is anymore. And so, I guess it's like even if one voice, right, the lone voice in the wilderness says, we have strayed so far from knowing what truth is that we must see it. We must go back to the beginning in some sense and start over, but not recreate the problems of the past. We've already seen that. We don't need more belief systems, more ideologies, more methods and systems. We just don't. And people are still creating them. And now that we have AI, people can create new belief and ideological, like AI can create new religions on the spot. And I've seen it happen. You know, where people are like, wow, you know, AI can help us find truth. And really it can't. It can't, for a most basic reason, that truth is not within the realm of knowledge. And AI works within the realm of knowledge. It's that simple. So does our mind. Right? The fundamental truth here is our mind, the human brain, works within the realm of knowledge. And so does AI, which is why it's so strikingly similar to how the human brain thinks. But the truth that we're speaking of is not a truth of knowledge. It's not about accumulating knowledge to a point where one will say, now we see the truth because we've accumulated so much knowledge, and it's within this space of knowledge. And that's really what all philosophy does as well. Right? It just accumulates knowledge, and then it formulates theories and axioms and all that. That is not truth. It's not even a shade of truth. Truth is not found there. But we're so used to this. We're so used to that because that's the way we were conditioned. We were brought up to believe in something, to not really question and challenge things for ourselves. We may have been brought up in a family that had no religion, but then was like, what I'll just, use the word atheist, which is like a reaction to all religions are wrong, but you're reacting to that, not trying to find truth yourself, but you've accepted some other form of truth, right? Whether it's scientific truth, so-called scientific truth, which is not truth either, right? Some other form of truth, and you reject everything else, and that's not it either, right? It's not about rejecting things, because that's a reaction to those things. If you just reject everything, right, then you're not trying to find truth. You're just rejecting all current notions of truth, which to some extent can be a starting point. But you're then not inquiring, right? If you reject without inquiring, then you're not going the next step in a way. This isn't really step, but you're not saying, is there anything sacred? And if there is, I want to find it. You're just saying, there is nothing sacred. You're coming to some conclusion. There is nothing. Everything's mundane. Everything's mechanical. Everything can be explained by science, and even though science is partial and incomplete, right? Not a complete theory of everything, but you believe in that. Your belief now has just shifted from religion to science. You believe in science and the scientific method that we will ultimately achieve ultimate wisdom through the accumulation of knowledge in the way of science, right? But that is just like another religion. It's another belief, because we're not there. We're not there. And so it hasn't happened, so it's not true. But you believe it will be true. Just like everyone else in a religion believes something that will be true. It's the same thing. That's very hard for people to accept as well, right? Because normally there's the two sides of the argument. The super scientific, anti-religious, and the super religious, maybe anti-scientific, or maybe some belief in science, but not seeing the contradictions between their religious beliefs and scientific knowledge, not wanting to come to terms with the inconsistencies with what they know from science and what they believe in their religion. They compartmentalize. Some people compartmentalize, right? They have whatever belief or faith they have, and then they're okay, on the other hand, with saying, well, scientific knowledge tells us certain things about how long we've been on this planet and how life has arisen through evolution and all these other processes, which seems fairly well established. Like, a lot of those appear to be truths, you know. I mean, the theories themselves are not absolute truth, right? They are also belief, which is why, you know, we can, but there are certain facts, right, that are there, right? The facts are unavoidable, right? Like finding dinosaur bones in the dirt, right? Now people can then try to construct all sorts of fanciful reasons how it is that dinosaurs that can be carbon dated, the bones are there that are very old, and then explain it away somehow because it doesn't agree with their belief that maybe the entire world is only like 5,000 or 6,000 years old, right? And some people do believe that, which doesn't really comport with our observations of the physical world, right? So this is where you know, to me, there was always obvious examples of people that just reject, you know, observations because they don't fit their belief system, or construct elaborate extensions of their belief system to account for that information in ways that seem scientific but are really pseudo-scientific, right? Not really accepting what the information is telling us, or looking for the truth behind all this information, right? The truth, rather than some brain created imagination, you know, some contrived explanation, right? We're not looking for explanations here, we're looking for truth. And so yeah, I mean, this is, you know, but instead of going into all of this, right, so what I'm really going into here is something we've talked about a lot, which are the problems that we have, right? The so-called problems. And I said, we're here not to go into all these problems. Let's set all that aside for a moment, right? Let's set aside that all the turmoil and and just say, we're here, I'm here today to observe truth directly. Set aside all this that we talked about, the history of humanity and all the problems that we may have in our society, because if we just think about that all day long, again, we're trapped in the world of thought. Let's set that aside. Set it aside and say, can we observe truth directly? Can we see what is sacred directly? Without anyone telling us what to believe, telling us what that is, without rejecting anything, but without accepting anything. Because when you observe and pay attention, you're not rejecting or accepting anything, right? You're observing. It's not rejection or acceptance, it's observing what is. See, it's altogether different to observe what is as it is, without coloring it with our thoughts, without judging it, without seeing how it fits within our belief system. Because if it doesn't, I reject it, and if it does, I accept it. It's like, no, there's no acceptance, no rejection. It's the simplest thing of all to just pay attention without letting thought come into the process. right? And we may say, no, it's the hardest thing, right? So people say, no, it's the hardest thing. It's the absolute simplest thing. But thought will convince you it's the hardest thing. If you go down that path, thought doesn't want you to see the truth. Right? To see with your eyes is what can be more simpler than that? To just see what's right in front of you, you're already seeing it. That's why it's so simple. It's already there. It doesn't require you to do anything different than what you're doing. It requires you to stop doing what you do after you see, right? After you see something, your thought comes into play. That's what we need to see, right? Let's examine the mind. Let's observe the mind that tricks us, that deludes us, right? To get to the root of the problem. Let's not worry about the world at the moment. Let's not worry about solving all these problems we have in the world. Let's worry about ourself, because ourself is the world. It's another insight, but even that, let's set that aside at the moment and just say, I'm here and I'm seeing things and I'm observing things. Let's go into that. Let's go into what I'm seeing now. We're here in the Sunday, walking through the woods, surrounded by truth, surrounded by reality, a reality that is different from the technology created reality, the idea created reality that we become so distracted by and absorbed by. But again, let's not deviate into that path. It's so easy though to go down to like, what's the problem again, right? But here we are, right? We're here now. Do we see where we are? Do we see what's happening? Do we smell what there is to be smelled? Do we hear what there is to be heard? Do we use all of our senses together, not just one, not just our sight, because then you're focusing again. If you're focusing on just what you're seeing, you're shutting out the other senses. There's sounds, there's smells, there's sight, there's touch, there's feel, right? All of this is happening in the now. Have we ever even just thought for a minute, just play around, right? With like being aware with all of your senses, not just one or two, or not just one. Normally it's just one. What I see. If I'm describing a scene to you, I may start by describing what I see, the trees, the green, the trail, the rocks. I could describe endlessly what I see, but it's all like, I'm seeing it all as one image, right? One image is coming into my mind, but then I'm breaking it down into parts by describing the rocks and the trees and the blue. Can I just see that image as a whole? First of all, the whole image, not just part of it. Not focus on any part of it, but the whole image. It's like seeing the whole map, a whole map, right? Like the map of our mind. Can we see the map of our mind? Just like you might look at a whole map, but if you're so focused in the map on one street in the map, and you want to get to one particular location, you're not seeing the whole map. You're just focused on a part of the map, and you don't see the whole. So in a way, we're saying, can we see the map of our mind without wanting any one particular thing out of it, or focusing on it, and just letting that map come to us? And not only through sight. Then I said, okay, I can smell things now, right? Now I'm focused on smell. I can smell flowers. I can smell interesting smells that I not really even know what they are. The leaves, probably. I can't imagine, right? And again, why do I need to break it down into what I'm smelling and where it comes from? Just smell. You smell it. You smell something, right? And the same thing with, taste. Here, taste is less of a factor, right? But I can taste my own mouth, and, there's a taste there. As everything else is happening, I can detect, some taste. Touch. I'm walking on the ground, right? And my feet are walking on the ground, and I can feel the stones when they're there, and I can feel when the stones are not there, the solidity of the earth. I'm putting all this in words, right? But it's like, can I feel without doing that? Just feel the sensation directly, and then stopping there, not letting thought turn it into a story or a desire. I like that feeling, I don't like that feeling, but just acknowledging the feeling that's there. And the wind, I can feel the wind on my skin, you know, as it's blowing, and I can feel the hat on my head, and I can feel the weight of things in my pockets, on my body. Right now I'm focusing on particular things there just to make the point that all these things are there. But without doing that, can I feel the touch? Can I smell? Can I see? Can I hear? I want to say all at once, but just, it's already at once. There's no, you don't have to do anything actually. Just not focus your attention on any particular thing, which is thought. Right? Thought wants you to focus on one thing. It has a motivation, an intention. And thought is like a tiny little thing in your brain. And we're so used to like that focus that we don't know what it's like to not focus. But just, and I hate to say imagine because this is thought, but imagine if the brain has energy that can be holistic without focusing on anything. But that's outside the bounds of what we're normally used to doing, right? We're normally used to focusing. So when I talk about all these things now you want to focus on, you're probably running through your mind saying, what do I hear? What do I see? What do I smell? You're still cycling through what thought at that moment. Now thought wants to cycle through all the senses, one at a time. What do I see? What do I hear? Let me pay attention to what I see. Let me pay attention to what I hear, what I'm feeling. And it's the same thing, right? You can't get out of it that way. Only by just being aware that all this sensory information is coming in, and you don't have to separate it. You don't have to subdivide it. You don't have to experience it, right? Because to experience something, you need to have an experiencer, which ties it to the past. You know, an experiencer is like, oh, I had a great experience today, and I remember what that experience is, like walking through the woods, because I've walked through the woods before, and so I labeled that experience. If you don't label an experience, there's no experiencer. You don't, it's like that memory is like a recording of the thing, which now has limited it. Because an experience has now turned into a memory, and that's what you think the experience is, the memory of the experience, not the experience in the moment. Right? The experience in the moment cannot be recorded. It's not the same as what we talk about with experience normally, which is a memory. There's an awareness of the moment, right? Not experience. And you may say, well, this is just playing with words. And it is. And we talked about how words can't get to the truth, no matter how many words I use. Maybe you don't know English, and then what do these words mean to you? You don't know the nuance between the word experience and awareness and concentration, right? If you don't know the meanings of those words, if English, like say, isn't your first language, you're not even going to understand how, even within the language, those words have nuances in meaning. But even if you are an English speaker, this can be very confusing, because it's just a bunch of words, and like, what do you mean the difference between experience and awareness and observing? And this is where that entire process needs to end, of word making, differentiating between words. It's like we're using words maybe with the point of just showing how the words you can't rely on them. You can't rely on any of these words that I'm using right now. They really don't have inherent meaning. So they all need to go. Right? That may be the best thing of all, is to not get caught in any particular usage of words, but to see that the problem with language is so severe that you cannot rely on it to see truth. Right? That you can see. You may not be able to see truth directly, but you can see the limitations of knowledge. By us discussing it and going into it, we're not describing truth, we're describing how impossible it is to describe truth. It's different. right? We're not ever claiming we know what truth is. We're saying this is the things that are getting in the way of truth. Do you see that? Do you see that your language and your ideas are limiting you? When you come to a conclusion, it's limited. And it really isn't a conclusion. And do you see that process occurring in the brain? And no matter how you try to stop it, it still happens. Right? It keeps happening. Like you can't stop it. You can't stop it. You know? That doesn't mean it can't stop. But you can't stop it. Because you are part of that process. The process can't stop the process. Right? So that's the conundrum that we're in here. That no play on words is going to get us there. But by using the words, we're exploring the problem with the words. We're like touching the periphery. And maybe along the way, the truth will seep in, not because of any words we're using, but because of the awareness of the limitations of those words. The mind may say, you're right. It's limited. So it may stop, right, on its own. It may just shut down, not because some part of the brain is like saying you need to shut down, but just by seeing its own limitation and realizing it's not the boss, it's not in control, it isn't supreme. It needs to step aside and take its rightful place, right? And this whole thing may just be that thought has become the dominant factor in our lives, whereas it can have a role to play in a harmonious relationship, but it's not the dominant factor and shouldn't be the dominant factor. Our life shouldn't be directed by thought, only directed by knowledge, only by what we accumulate in this way. The thought has its place, knowledge has its place, but not as the ruler, right? Not as the ruler over everything else. That is the difficulty that we encounter. And if we can just see that, then perhaps there can be a stepping aside and saying, wow, I don't know. Like, this is very complex. What I'm seeing is you're pointing some things out maybe that I wasn't aware of. I did think that the search for knowledge is the way to go, and now I'm questioning that. See, doubt can play a role here. Question whether knowledge, it can ever be supreme or complete. And if it can't be, then there is no point to the seeking of knowledge, because we just think that somehow, we'll find the end of the path or end of the trail, by seeking that knowledge, and then you find that that's not the way. So you give up maybe that way that right now you're on a way, you're on a path, right? Can you give up all paths, all ways? Can you give up all direction? Become aimless and be open to whatever is there when you're not there, right? Because you as the director, you are that bundle of thoughts that is directing things right now, right? Your identity is that director. Can you see that director, the one that wants to control, the one that wants to, see that for what it is, a bundle of memories, all your conditioning, your past conditioning is that, just see it, right? And then in the seeing of it, something else may come about, may arise, may happen. It doesn't even matter, because seeing the truth is enough, right? Seeing that truth is enough, and you don't need to imagine what comes next, because there is no next in the realm of thought, right? If thought ends, then the next thing can't be thought driven, so there can be no imagining of it, of what comes next, or what happens, or any of that, right? Because any of that would be an extension and a continuation of the thought process, which is always what happens now. The ending of thought, there's no next. There's no what comes next. There's no, I can't imagine what comes next. You are outside the bounds of thought. Not you are outside. You can never come back to that identity. So it is just the seeing of things, right? So here we are. Let's, return once again to just seeing, because even now, our words have taken off and become something when in fact the simplicity of what we're saying is so simple, does not require any of these words, any of this explanation. And that is, even when I keep going off on these tangents, you can say, where I try to explain it more, is probably just digging in deeper, because now thought is taking all of what I'm saying and trying to process it and make sense of it and say, is there any truth to what he's saying? Or maybe he's full of crap, which is probably more likely. I don't want to believe anything that he's saying, which I would agree with. Don't believe anything I'm saying. That is actually part of what I'm saying. But what else are you going to do? Right? If you don't believe anything I say, then are you just going to go back to the way you were? Or are you going to say, maybe I need to figure this out on my own? Because everyone's always telling me what to believe, telling me what to do, including me. Now here I am telling you something different that may be different than everything you've heard before, and you're just like, I don't want this. I thought I already knew everything. I had everything figured out, and now you're coming along and telling me maybe I don't have everything figured out, or trying to tell me about the limitations of knowledge, which I don't want to hear about. I realize it's limited, but it's good enough. It's good enough. And here I am in my life. I'm just going to continue on doing what I'm doing, and not change a thing. Nevertheless, we already talked about the current state of society requires a change. We must change, right? We must change. Society must change. We don't know how to make that change. That's the issue. So if you just go back to where you were, basically, we're going back to the edge of the collapse of our society, and we're ignoring the problem that we started this with, which is to see the truth of the fact that we are destroying ourselves. So you can't just go back to what you were before. You have to say, okay, we're trying to solve this problem, right? But how we solve the problem, how we go about that is the issue. And do we see the problem clearly enough? Because that's always the first step, the first and only step. Seeing the problem clearly is how to solve the problem. But that's another thing that we may not see. But if we do see, then we see that there's nothing to be done other than to see the problem completely and wholly. And that is it. And that is not how we've approached this in the past. We try to come up with a solution, a new philosophy, a new ideology, a new religion, a new political system, a new whatever. We just don't, we don't think just seeing is enough. We just don't understand that. How is that enough? We need a plan. We need a method. And see, it's not, is love a plan? Is love a method? So we can bring in this word love, because one might say, well, what else is there besides knowledge? Well, let's call it love. There may be something called love, which is not born of knowledge, which is not causal, that is, real there, but not something that can be explained or put into words. And also not something that can be understood unless it emerges directly. Not, love is, and then provide a definition of it. Then knowledge gets into the business of love, and we misuse that word. That's another problem. We have used that love to mean personal relationship love, or sexual love, or I love chocolate ice cream. And the problem is, again, we talked about this, the words are imprecise, can have multiple meanings. So there can be something, why use the word love at all? Well, because there's something in some shady way, we all kind of understand what that true love might be, right? A love that is not self-serving, a love that doesn't ask for anything, a love that acts, that when it sees, it just knows what to do. It doesn't think about it, but just acts, right, in a compassionate way, in every moment of every day. right? And this is not knowledge-based action. It's, you know, it's like truth acts, or love can act in a different way than knowledge. But if we're not careful, we can fool ourselves into thinking that we know what love is. And then we can just map or mask and say, no, love is now guiding me, right? But it could all be words. If love is really guiding you, or are you just now calling what you did before love, but you're not changing a thing, it's still the same process. You're just now saying, I'm driven by love. I think this is where a lot of hypocrisy in religious traditions comes from, right? They use the word love, and they say, God's love, or whatever. They'll use that word over and over again, but it will be according to their own system. So they have a system of love that they ascribe to, that they believe is how love comes about. Instead of going into what love is directly, casting aside all beliefs about love and saying, there may be this love, which may be this sacred thing, right? The sacred thing that we can't see directly, but that is there, acting all the time. But we get in the way of it. So we're, you know, and again, if we use the word, there's no point in using the word love, because the only way to know it is to observe and pay attention anyways. So we don't have to come up with some idea about what love is and then say, oh, now I get it. This links back to my religion, because my religion talks about love. Love God above all things. Love your neighbor as yourself. So now I'm seeing the connections, right? I'm drawing the connections between, and saying, oh yeah, that's what my religion already talks about love. So there's nothing more to do. I'm covered. But see, you're falling back to what you've been told about these words. And that's not what we're saying. Again, get out of that realm of knowledge. Forget everything that anyone has told you about love. Forget the word itself. Right? And this is why even using the word is dangerous, because it evokes all these past associations. Because we don't need to name it. But I guess to use the word is just a hint that there could be something there that is not of the realm of knowledge, that we can't know directly. We can't know, because knowing is a matter of the brain, is a matter of knowledge. But that in some other way is there and can be maybe observed but not named, may act but cannot be pinned down causally, you know. And we don't need to go this direction, what I'm doing now. We just need to observe again, right? It never comes down to anything more than just pay attention to what's around you. Forget all the words, forget the words I just used. Forget all these words. What difference does it make? It doesn't change what's in front of me. It doesn't change what's real, what's true. So forget it, right? It's just, this is where being silent maybe sometimes is the best thing to do, because we just confuse ourselves with all these words. So let's not use words. Yesterday in the video, I stopped talking on the way back, and I just, you know, I deliberately stopped talking, but then I didn't feel like talking, and I just walked, and I recorded it, but it was silent, right? But, you know, there's energy even in that silence, right? That I didn't have to use any words. I'm moving, you know, through the woods still, but we have such difficulty with that. Because even if we're silent in that we're not speaking, the mind is filled with all the thoughts still. And that's not silence. Because we're still thinking things, right? So how do we get beyond all of this? So, you know, and I guess I reached this point where I'm just like, maybe I should have said nothing at all, you know? It may have been better. But I think we walked together for a while here. We talked, we had a conversation, and, you know, that's part of living too. Part of living is speaking and talking. It's part of who we are. So it's not to be avoided any more than it should be the dominant factor. So what I'm going to do now is end this video and maybe not do a lot more talking today. I don't think I am going to, at this moment in time, I don't think I'm going to make any more videos, because I do feel like there's too many words. Too many words are coming out. It may be confusing everyone. Let's just enjoy the day. You know, let's just pay attention to what's happening around us without getting too deep and heavy in anything, without worrying about anything. See what happens. So we'll leave it there. And have a good day.